Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Smith, Senior Webinar Producer at Zapier. Welcome to today's event, the new Creative Muse, leveraging AI in design and storytelling. As you can see, we have some pretty remarkable people and brands here from Zapier, Spotify, Shopify, and Canva. You get to hear more from them in a little bit, but first you have to listen to me as we go through some housekeeping items as per usual. This is being recorded. I know that will be asked repeatedly, but it is being recorded. A recording will be sent out in 2 to 3 business days, or you can immediately access using the same link that you used today. Also, we are not AI, so I wanted to preface it with that because sometimes people think we are, but we are all humans. So treat us as such, and we will treat you as such. If you have any questions, please send them in as they come up in the questions box. We're here for you. We would love to take your questions live at the end. We have about 15 minutes slotted there, so no matter when it comes up, please just send it in and we will address it then. And also, Google Chrome is the best browser to use for this stream. If you're not using Google Chrome, I'm not sure really what you'll be doing at this point, but it is recommended. Also, the platform itself, you will see has the questions on the bottom right-hand side. We will be running a few polls, and also there's an access to links, including one of our example use cases from that Julia will go through today, as well as our next week's webinar with our co-founder and CEO, Wade Foster, along with our recently named Chief People and AI Transformation Officer, Brandon. All right, now before we get fully started with everything, well, I already ran through the housekeeping, you're good there. So polls, I have 2 questions. We just like to get to know the audience a little bit better, who's here, what your job roles are, what your familiarity is with AI, just so we can speak to you in a way that makes the most sense. So I'm gonna launch the first question, which is, what is your job role? And I know this is not entirely comprehensive, but we'll give everyone about 15 seconds to answer. Are you a creative director, head of creative, producer, production manager, content creator, designer, marketing, brand manager? Very generic, and I will fully admit that this came from an AI software that I will not name, even though I love it. So I'll give 5 more seconds and we will see what the audience says. And I guess I should select this as well, so why not? All right, it looks like we are about mixed at 38% creative director and head of creative and marketing brand manager. And now next question is, where is your company at when it comes to AI fluency? A topic that's coming up more and more. I'm sure you've seen it a lot on LinkedIn, and it means different things to different people. But are you exploring, just starting to learn about AI possibilities, experimenting, running pilots and testing AI tools, implementing, actively using AI in some workflows, scaling, AI integrated across multiple teams and processes? So I'll give everyone about 5 more seconds to answer that. And then we will go into our agenda and our speaker introductions. All right, I will, well, obviously Zapier is at the highest level possible. So let's see here. All right, it looks like 43% scaling, AI integrated across multiple teams and processes, and then experimenting, running pilots, testing AI tools. But it kind of even mix here, minus a lot of advanced people. So this will be exciting conversation. And with that, here's our quick agenda. We're going to have speaker introductions. You get to hear from our thought leaders a little bit more about them and why they're here. Also, we will have a few discussion questions to kick things off, and then we will have open Q&A at the end for you all. We will run maybe 45 to 60 minutes, just depends on the flow. This is going to be a fun, organic conversation. So again, just send your questions in as they come up, and I see there is one, and if it is about being recorded, yes, it's being recorded. So with that, we will have our first speaker introduce herself, and I'll pass it to Julia.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I am a brand design lead here at Zapier, where I'm leading brand identity systems and also have a privilege working on events like Zap Connect. And I'm happy to chat more about this project a bit more later today. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Rainey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rainey. I work at Spotify as Senior Art Director, and I've been with the company for about 9 years now, seeing how the team from Brand and Creative grown from nine of us. I was the ninth hire to what it is now is like 120 in Brand and Creative team. So seeing it grow and building the brand from ground up at Spotify, and now we're entering into our 20th anniversary next year. So it's kind of incredible to see how we have built Wraps. And, that's the most popular one that everyone knows as a Spotify user. And excited to be sharing the stage here with all these creative, talented geniuses here. And I'm looking forward to have a great discussion with everyone else listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Rainey. And then I'll pass it to Toby.
Thanks, Alicia. My name's Toby. I am a design lead at Shopify. We're going to have to struggle with the Shopify and Spotify, and I'm going to get it wrong at some point, I know. But I'm at Shopify. I've been there for nearly 6 months now. I lead the product design team for what we call merchant marketing, which is where we help our merchants market their businesses and reach the customers where they are. Before that, I was at Cash App, and I've spent some time at Nike and Amazon before that too. I focus most of my time on the product design side, but I also lead a brand design and have worked across both sides of the aisle.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, Spotify, Shopify. It just so happened that you two have some of the biggest brands out there, and the names are so similar. And now, last and not least, Mark.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Mark. I'm the Americas GM and VP of Sales for Canva Enterprise. A fun fact is that I discovered Canva in a 5th grade classroom about 8 years ago when I was in 5th grade, just kidding, when I was running the education business for Adobe. And at the time, I remember thinking, this is the future. It's this powerful, easy to use, creative tool that's highly accessible. It was, frankly, it was kind of everything Adobe wasn't at that time. And here I am in the future, at Canva. And it's super cool to be, here in the future, with all of you. To describe my role, I'll say that I'm super excited that there's a lot of, marketing and brand folks here because Canva has a brand positioning problem. We do. And we're very well known in the consumer space. We're very well known in the education space. I wish I had $1 for every time someone said, oh, my daughter uses Canva and she loves it. And I would have $1 million easy. And that's just for the times that I say it, because I have a daughter who uses Canva and she loves it. And so I get another $1. But seriously, my job is to try to convince people that Canva also has a place in the enterprise. But didn't I say it's a powerful, easy to use creative tool? It's highly accessible. Like I said, I could use your help. And yeah, anyway, super nice to meet you all. Back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Mark. If I could give you $1 every time my husband mentioned Canva, you would be retired. With that, we're going to kick off the discussion. And everyone's going to go through a few examples or use cases or how they've thought about AI and just trying to give people some context. I think a lot of people often know what tools they can use, but not always how to conceptualize it or be creative and maximize why you ended up in a creative field as you did. I'm going to start with Toby. How do you approach product design with AI at Shopify? And can you share an example where AI shaped narrative or product direction? And I do have a video, so just let me know when you want to play it.
You can probably play it in the background without any sound, because it runs through a number of different elements, and I don't need to speak to it, but it's just useful to see in the background.
What I
Shopify,
see designers doing now is
we use
like
AI.
tool stitching, where
Can you mute that? Thank you. Can you run it, but just mute
tool
it?
stitching, where
instead of just being
Yes.
reliant on Figma
It is
alone,
muted.
they're stitching
I
together a
can
bunch
hear
of
the
different
sound of
really
it. That's the
disparate
only
tools that
thing.
you might
Oh,
not
you
think
can?
go
Oh, the
together to
audience, I
create
can't hear
really,
it.
really exciting
So you may have to
idea
mute it on
renderings. I
your
want to cut
end.
to a
Can
video from
anyone
Luke
in the
and
audience
Kaz
let
that
me
really,
know if you can
Kaz
hear it?
really
Because
highlights
I
this.
believe it should be muted for
Hi there,
everyone.
I'm Luke, product designer, working all across the shop app.
Yeah, we can
I had
hear
a lot
it.
of fun recently playing with all these different AI tools and
Oh,
weaving them
yes,
into my
they
prototypes.
can. That's, I
to
guess
figure out how to get
it's
some
my
of these crazy ideas that are in
individual,
my head out to the
I'm the
team.
only one who can
One of
actually
those
mute
ideas
it. Well,
was
that
a mini
figures. I
for
seem
virtual
to have
try-on.
audio problems.
Being able to use things like Foul
Okay,
to
then.
create an avatar and apply clothing to it
Well,
helped me build out
I
this
did.
full end-to-end experience
What,
that I was able to share
if
with the
everyone
team
can hear it,
and
what
get
would you
some
like me to
quick
do,
feedback
Toby? Would you
on
like
technical
to?
limitations.
Well, I can talk over it
And
if,
what the
and I
core
will
idea
be.
is
Can I
to
make
have
a
avatar
suggestion?
be able to
Video
choose
going.
Why
between
don't we just listen to it? I
tops,
think it's
bottom,
super
shoes,
interesting. And then
and kind of
Sure.
apply different clothing to
Sure,
it to be
it's
able
5
to
minutes
save
long.
or purchase.
That's perfect.
Fun
Let's go
stuff.
for it.
Another crazy idea, and this is the early days of
Kasdan that really highlights this.
Hi there, I'm Luke, product designer, working all across the shop app. I've been having a lot of fun recently playing with all these different AI tools and weaving them into my prototypes to figure out how to get some of these crazy ideas that are in my head out to the team. One of those ideas was a mini for virtual try-on. Being able to use things like Foul to create an avatar and then apply clothing to it helped me build out this full end-to-end experience that I was able to share with the team and get some quick feedback on technical limitations. And what the core idea is, you could have an avatar be able to choose between tops, bottom, shoes, and kind of apply different clothing to it to be able to save or purchase. Fun stuff. Another crazy idea, and this is the early days of 4.0, all the wild image stuff that came out a few months back, is that you could take a picture of something and then run it through 4.0 and it could build out like a really nice lay flat of it. So while I was thinking through a visual search mini, I wanted to find out if there was a way to basically take those two and the original picture and the lay flat and then morph them together. I use Runway for this, and it helped me build out this prototype for visual search. The core flow is you go through, open your camera, take a picture. That would then morph into the lay flat and be used as a seed to be able to do visual search in the shop app. Also, it could save that asset to your closet as well. So fun stuff. Again, like really quickly being able to have these ideas materialize and be able to get quick reactions to is definitely the main kind of superpower for these things. If these types of things interest you, I invite you to check out my page on studio.shopify. I am putting up a lot of these prototypes of just like weird little experiments, and it's really fun. So if you have any questions about this stuff, find me on Slack. Bye.
It's such a fun time to be a designer at Shopify with all the AI tools that we have right now. I feel like every day feels like play, and here are some of the things that I've been building both for work and play with Cursor and AI. Right now in marketing, we're rethinking some of our surfaces and how we better communicate all the data flowing in. This super pivot table thing is something that's starting to gain some confidence. You can imagine how long it would take to make something like this in Figma, stringing it all together, but being able to just like write a backend file and attach that to a front end has saved a ton of time and led to better conversations. It's also been great to think about these more like abstract ideas. Like we were playing with this opportunity heat map matrix of customer segments versus channels. Again, would have taken way longer to make this in Figma, and I can just ship it and talk about it at a fraction of the time. Previously, when I was working on finance, I was thinking about this wallet concept as a standalone app and playing around with some players tokens to see what that would feel like, which was a cool thing. Day to day, I've been trying to make myself a little productivity tool. I'm calling it IGSD. It's a macOS app that lets me track projects and tasks and everything. It's been a nice replacement for the Apple Notes app. And this is just like having some fun with some front-end stuff, seeing what it feels like to be only in Cursor, no Figma, and coming up with some widgets and stuff that are non-players, just to exercise some creativity and think about different little mini design challenges.
Alicia, do you want to stop it there?
So crazy.
Yep.
This is just from this is just from one of our internal town halls. So I think we posted this to LinkedIn and we posted this to other places, and so people just get a quick side. The interesting thing from as a designer is that AI tools now are a part of our tool belt. And so in the same way that we have been using things, the Adobe tools, we use Figma a lot, we use a lot of those other tools. We've really started to think about how do we use code and craft code in the same way that we would design. So when we're thinking about states, it's very hard to show different states of product design with things like Figma. And so we've been able to use Cursor and other tools to really start to create these data-driven prototypes that feel like various different states that a merchant will go through. The other more creative side of things is that we just in the same way that we every day will do reps and we'll spend some time in a notebook to just warm ourselves up. We have very simple prompts that range everywhere from typography through to widget design, through to just little fun exercises to get people thinking. And at that point, that we will use any tool and every tool. And so the role of the designer has really, really fundamentally changed. It's a design with a capital D, no longer just thinking about the aesthetics and the pixels. It's far more about thinking about the why and how we can apply those tools in our day-to-day practice.
Absolutely. I love hearing that. Julia or Rainey or Mark want to add anything to that?
I just was super inspired by how many different types of things that are happening across the company. It's super inspiring. So cool.
Yeah, that's why I work so hard to get Toby here. And with that, we'll head into our next question. And this one is going to be for Rainey. And kind of about the creative process, because that is a part of it. I think anyone who enters the creative realm and production wants to be inspired or wants to figure out ways to have their muse, as the Greeks taught us. How does AI inspire early creative exploration? Can you share an example where it unlocked unexpected ideas or creativity?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rainey from Spotify. So I'll come in talking about as a creative in our brand and creative team here. So we have an in-house team. They're slowly integrating more of our more of our AI in our creative process. So what I meant by that is whenever we're shaping a new campaign or building a visual world or trying to crack the emotional tone of a moment, we use AI to generate a wide spectrum of mood boards, textures. So that can be as simple as, sorry, that's my pings. That can be as simple as trying to mash up something for a project that my team is working on, which is called Houston Rodeo, that is coming out in March 2026. So it's an experiential event space that we're creating at Houston, Texas, for the Houston Rodeo Show, basically. And we are having a booth there. We're creating an experience and an event in conjunction and partnership with a top beverage brand that is confidential right now, but it's coming up. And how we do is, something like cowboy or rodeo is such a strong and traditional genre. But with AI, what we do is we fed AI a mix of references like artist mood boards, our subgenres, color palettes, even feelings like nostalgic but electric, or something like cowboy sparkles meet cosmic pop. So what came back wasn't a polished final look that much, but it surfaces a visual language that we haven't considered. So something like a hybrid of fashion and set design, new ways on interpreting sound as textures. So some of the things that we input is like, how does this artist sound like as an architecture? So I want us to think creatively as a creative on how would you prompt AI, even as simple as ChatGPT or Midjourney, which I use a lot in my creative process now. It's all about a prompt that we're building and that we're putting it in there and almost asking AI to help to work harder for us as a creative, right? So how would it help you to widen the aperture? Like, what's the texture of this fan base? What's the texture of country music fan base, right? Like, what's the emotional palette of the top track for country music? So these are things that we have not explored almost like ever back, where graphics are able to talk back to you. Like Adobe or Photoshop are something that we can create design, but AI right now is something that is able to talk back visually on a thought that you have And that hasn't happened before AI, which is why it's so exciting. You can even ask simple things like provide a visual of optimistic chaos. Like, how does it even look like? So so that's one of the example where it really unlocks unexpected ideas for us as a team, and that can spur off 100 or 1,000 different mood boards that could then be part of your process and come up with something that's more unexpected for the event or for the campaign that you're working on.
I love that, Randy. And Julia, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I will preface, I have been in content for quite a while. That's kind of part of my origin story. How do you end up in production? It's content and project management, because you need both. Otherwise, it's a failure. With it, I have found the same thing with AI being able to spark a way of thinking structurally, especially when it comes to production or a way of writing or a way of communicating that I wouldn't have been able to do without having a copywriter, for instance. And now because I know copywriting is not my strong suit, I don't have the patience for it, and I admire those who do. But it does, and it gives you more nuance, and you can add texture, which sounds so strange for an inanimate object, but you can actually add layers of tone, and especially once it starts to learn your voice. I've been teaching my husband a bit about prompting, and he's like, I don't know how you must have come out of your as a child knowing how to prompt. And I'm like, I've been training for this my whole life. So finally someone can listen to me. But from the content perspective, it's the same thing, that you can add these nuances and different types of words, that because you, as a content person, you default to the same mechanisms often. Julia, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think this is actually really interesting when you already mentioned about textures and, prompting about like various, things. I think that we still don't have this technique, of, especially in the roles of, creative directors or art directors, to really just like kind of transfer your idea to someone and like how to explain it. So oftentimes you really need to kind of improvise. Oh, this feels like this, but it feels to you and maybe not to the other person. So this is like quite of this challenge, like how to explain your vision to someone. And now I think with AI, you can really like kind of prototype what you think, or even like jam before like passing it into someone, which I think it's really, really exciting use case for AI. I myself had it a few times, like working with someone. Like I had to, for instance, come up with an idea. Okay, but what's the environment for this image? And I'm like, yeah, maybe a forest, maybe this, but I would need to sketch it or explain or like write really a lot, like entire story. And this way I could just like kind of prompt quickly. ChatGPT would give it back, or Midjourney. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is actually what I meant, or no. And then I go, okay, just tweak this. And otherwise I would need to, have a back and forth with a freelancer. And then, every iteration is something that we pay for. So I think it also like helps kind of structure your thought when you're directing any event or people. I think this is an exciting opportunity.
Absolutely, especially with agencies where time is money. All right, next question for Mark. How are enterprise teams using Canva's AI tools creatively? Or what's a use case or customer story that stands out to you?
Yeah. First, I'll just say how much what Rainey said landed with me, having spent 8 years at Adobe. This idea that you can use Photoshop to create a design, and AI is opening up thought, and it's opening, and like you said, widening the aperture. And you talked about like even like the emotional palette of country music, which is something that's so hard to imagine. I love that. To answer your question, Canva's teams, the enterprise teams, are using Canva's AI in almost every way imaginable. Like we learn things from our customers every day in terms of what's possible. It's so cool. And partly it's because you can do so much with Canva. everything from presentations to, we just launched email. But I think the best way to answer it is to give one example. And so we work with a Fortune 50 media and entertainment company. They were featured at Canva Create, which is our big event in April. It's a brand that everyone knows and loves, and they leverage Canva for their campaigns. And so if you can imagine, a campaign of theirs has about 50 assets. And so, one asset is the 1x1 meta ad, and then there's feed video, story reel, shorts, display banners, times 50. So there's 50 assets, and then multiply that by 20 countries. So times 20 languages. So it's 1,000 assets. Hopefully you can imagine that. Okay. So they are using Canva to shorten the cycle of getting all of those assets into production. And historically, it took them about 2 weeks to get that kind of a campaign into production. And now today, it's like tomorrow. Like they'll see a trend on TikTok tonight, and the campaign goes out tomorrow. And another thing, maybe we'll talk about this later, is that they're not replacing people. They're actually hiring more people to do this because they have such a massive catalog. And so it's like a really valuable thing for them. The question that I thought might be interesting to hear from Toby and Julia and Rainey is, like the work that I just described is really like kind of tier 3 creative work. It's really production work. And I'm curious to know, do y'all have a different approach for AI with the tier 1 work you're doing and the tier 2 work you're doing, et cetera? And we don't have to answer that now, but it's just something I've been thinking about.
Julia, would you want to chime in?
Yeah, I feel like, I definitely kind of understand, I don't know, the challenge of creating so many assets, or maybe not fully, because when I work on at Zapier here on any conferences, it's only in one language, in English, so it's not scaled, but by multiple languages, but it's still a lot of assets. And so when we work on any event or campaign or anything like that, there is always this production aspect that is kind of like must have for us as designers, because we just need to do it, right? But we always want to have this time back to really think about these creative aspects of it, and not just like kind of copying, pasting things. So I would say that the production and like spending less time and giving this work to AI or any automation, it actually is what gives this time for creativity back. So I think this is super, super important. So also to what you said about hiring more people, yeah, because those people are needed for this creative work to stand out. And especially now, I think people are so important, really, because we are still better than AI. It's only us who can control it. So I think this tools like Canva for this production is super important, and like giving it to AI even better, because seriously, I think we have all our brains and we can use it in so much more important and impactful ways than just like producing assets in multiple languages.
Yeah, I have a friend who he runs performance marketing for a finance company, and similarly, they're using Canva and AI for a lot of their production work. And his quote was, "This enables our design team to spend more time on breakthrough creative." And so anyway, what you said kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think one of the things we've started to find useful is actually using AI as a QA opportunity. So actually connecting and stacking various different LLMs together, whereas we're using something to create the output, but then also using other models to then check and QA the actual output, because often that's the bottleneck for us, is like there's still been approval cycles that we've not been able to get past. But actually by using other models to bear to QA the output means that we're actually speeding up the process. And that's been something which has been super interesting, both in terms of stacking LLMs to get our prompts better at the front end, but then also at the back end being able to check the output.
Brilliant.
I think this is so exciting using Canva's AI tool for enterprise. We have about there was a few bigger campaigns. There are tier 1 campaigns like Wrapped, where we had 32 different markets, localizations, and in different, like maybe 20 different languages, in say like 100 different sizes, web to out of home billboards to digital or even magazine pre-nets for the non-mature markets, right? So I think previously, before AI, we have just been the QA team, getting the vendors to be working on multiple of these outputs. But now with the help of AI, even what Toby mentioned about QA, so we also have an internal tool that could QA in the sense from the creative to the final output to deliverables, right? AI is able to help to figure out which part is not working. Say like the sizes doesn't work. So instead of going through the whole process that takes humans like maybe 3-4 days to go through one to the other, AI could now be able to detect it fast so that creatives can now be like doing the changes before it goes back again and doing this whole chain that takes another 3 to 4 days. So that's one use case, and then the other is the we're so happy with the fact that the markets there's still QC needed for sure, like human to have their eye on the creative, but it's going to be so much more convenient and easy to use, and the time can then be focused on the creative.
One thing I wanted to add is that I had spoken with Connor Grennan, who has somehow become the AI thought leader of sorts with the masterclass. He was the head of NYU's business school, and I went to NYU, and now he's the chief AI architect, even though he's like, I know nothing about AI, I just know how organizational behavior. And what he said, anytime I hear a company say, how can I let go of people and replace them with AI? I know that this is a company that I may not want to work with, because the goal should be to hire more people who are more efficient at doing this task and able to reach your bottom line even faster, not to eliminate actual roles. And it was a really fascinating take on it, because you're like, what? That makes total sense. If you can get 100 people to do just as much work, why wouldn't you do it if you have the tools to do so? All right, we have one more question for Julia, and then we'll start going into our Q&A. We have a couple that have come in. How is Zapier's brand team using AI beyond productivity? We're known as productivity tool often, so that's why that's in there. Walk us through a project where AI helped amplify creativity.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we just like chatted a little bit about, but my take is that seriously, like production and creativity is connected, as we chatted, because the more things like we outsource for production work, the more we have time for creativity. But yeah, I can walk you through the recent Zapier's event, Zap Connect, where we kind of use AI for both. So for like purely creative work, but also for the production work that then gave us even more time and more creativity. So Zap Connect is annual Zapier's event for our users. And every year we have some theme that we follow. So this year it was the Light the Way with AI. This was the theme that we established based on strategy that we had. It was all about inviting people to the event, so they could like learn about use cases, about like how they can apply AI meaningfully into their workflows, because we noticed that people want to use AI, they need to use it to stay ahead, but they don't really know where to start. So that's why the team light the way with AI. And once we established that, we started like sketching with a team what the creative answer for this team could be. And we bumped into this creative territory that we called illuminated journey. It was like this kind of cinematic approach, taken almost like from any games, movies, that would kind of show you the journey from dark to light through some dark caverns into like through some forest. It was all like kind of conceptual thinking about journey from dark to light. And we brought a lot of this kind of cinematic imagery into this exploration, but we knew that this is kind of impossible to do with our resourcing and budget, because we would need to hire, I believe, Pixar to really do this. So we were thinking like, actually, let's try using AI. And we knew that this is a risky idea, because this is a tool that is still hard to control. You know, if something goes wrong, like what then? And so we were starting like thinking like what we can do. And we started like chatting with people. We started chatting like what we want from this AI, and in a way that is ethical also, because we didn't want to just like outsource everything to AI. So we knew that we wanted to create something that has AI integrated to give us time back, to really make this dream that we had happen. And so we found AR artist Gizem. Hi Gizem, if you're watching this or you're here. And she helped us bring our dream to life. Really, we created 14 motion loops with sound that was almost like a main element of this identity. We had like a few other. This was the entire system, but seriously, like we could do something that we would never ever. It wasn't possible at all. And we also knew that because of this time that we saved and budget, we wanted to dream bigger. We wanted to bring motion in it and also sound. So we seriously created almost like cinematic experience. We had a music motif, everything. And that was the 4th edition of Zap Connect that I worked on. And we never were able to apply this identity to so many touch points, like from the beginning, like first registration point, so the page, through any swags, or even the platform, because it was a virtual event. Seriously, it was applied everywhere, and it was thoughtful design. This illuminated journey also was kind of mapped out for the entire audience journey. So seriously, this amplified this creativity a lot. And we also had this booster for production. For instance, we brought AI and created automation that automatically enhanced quality of the photos coming from our speakers. In the past, we had a really problem with it, because even though we had some requirements, like what it's a good photo, many times they were like too small, pixelated or something, and it then created the bottleneck, for instance, to ship any agenda pages or any like promotion assets. So we set up a Zap that would automatically detect what's wrong, would send it to me or to my team on Slack. We would then check if this is like true or not, and then if we would click that it's no, it's good, then it would go straight to a specific Google Drive, or it would just like upscale this photo, correct any wrong elements there, also add parts of the body, because sometimes they would be like tightly cropped and would, for instance, I don't know, add arms to it. And so with that automation, we had ready assets ready to put sorry, Mark, to Figma. So yeah, that was a great tool, and we also used Figma Bus for then creating all of those assets for our speakers. So that helped like so much. Like it's, yeah, seriously, like we saved, I don't know, weeks of work on this.
Amazing. I know you had talked about this previously, Julia, and one thing that I think you mentioned was that just being challenged with having to do this was something that was new and unique and different, and that there were more rounds of iteration, but you were able to do more with that iteration. So, and that's, I think, one of the values of AI tools. And we have a ton of great questions here, so we'll try to get through them before the end of the hour. And again, thank you everyone for sending them in. Please keep them coming. We're here for you. We're here for you, not necessarily emotionally, but at least to provide some insight. And I will start with Gidra. I hope I said your name correctly. If I did not, I apologize. Question for all the speakers, including Alicia. What number one AI tool or AI automation drastically impacted, changed your daily work routine, and which one was a waste of your time? I can say that I am probably the least savvy AI person at Zapier, and it's now on the record. So if anyone hears that, it's more indifference toward it, other than if it helps me do my job. However, I really became invested in using Anthropic's tool Claude. I found it to be a really easy way for me to structure content, or to have a consistent way of operating when it came to producing content. I thought it was a little like ChatGPT, just to compare to that, it was a little, it likes to provide a lot of options for voices, for different things and all that. And it's like, no, I'm looking for these promos about this length, this kind of structure. And I will say the only reason it works well is because I have like 15 years of experience, and I wish I'd had this tool all along. And what hasn't worked, that is a great question, because I've probably just avoided it all. I've tried a few agent tools or agents within tools a few times, and I'm not a huge fan, but it might just be my controlling nature. Mark, let's start with you.
Oh, thank you. So I get to answer this. So I'm going to say Canva, and I think there's some debate, is Canva an AI tool or isn't it? I recently saw something that said Canva was the second most used AI tool, used over almost 1 billion times a month, which is insane. I can explain a little bit about our AI strategy and how AI is built into Canva. But for example, our background remover tool is AI, and it's been used over 1 billion times, which is pretty sweet. We have a 3-pronged AI strategy. And so the first is we have our own AI and ML models. The maybe most well-known one is the Phoenix model from Leonardo, which is a company we acquired. So that's our text-to-image AI. We also have design and layout AI models, as well as data AI models. And so that's prong one, is our own AI. The second is that we have partner models. So, OpenAI, Anthropic, we were actually the first product integration partner for Google's VO3 video generation model. And we use GPT for our translate at scale and magic write features. And the third is our ecosystem APIs. And so think of MCP, we're one of GPT's top apps. Usage is insane. It's up like 5x. And our co-founder, Cam Adams, refers to Canva as the creative layer for AI. But for me personally, it's a game changer because I'm also not someone who did well in art school, but now I'm creating these like amazingly beautiful things. In terms of things that haven't worked, I think all of us have kind of lived through this idea of prompt roulette, and you never know quite what you're going to get. And I think for me, it's just a matter of learning which tool to use when. But I can pass it over to Toby or Rainey if you want to go next.
Sure, that's a great segue too, because you're talking about visuals, and I started using AI with my own my own interest, based on my own interest, and I have it all recorded on how to use AI as a creative on Design Never Sleeps Instagram. So Design Never Sleeps with an S. And what I do there is I started with using things like Sora or the early version of Midjourney or Firefly, Adobe Firefly. I've really done, but most of them are visuals. And I think the hardest part was finessing the prompts visually, because in the beginning they used to hallucinate so much, and typography errors, and they never get right with any spelling, right? But I think with how these models are right now, there's a huge improvement based on how we started maybe just even a year ago until now. And I feel like they're just getting better and better. I'm using a lot more Midjourney. And when I do the prompts, I actually have ChatGPT even help to write the prompt first. So that's going to help in using AI for another AI tool. And instead of coming up with your own prompt, right? Like that's how I usually do my process, and that works well. And then your prompt could just be from ChatGPT. You can finesse it over there, and then just put it in say, like, as a visual person, Midjourney or Sora or VO as well. Yeah, so that's how I use it. So I passed it to Toby.
I think from my point of view, one of the most interesting things is actually Cursor. And this is, I think, the role of all of our jobs and what we're doing is changing dramatically, and how we think about what it is we bring to both our companies, but also the general design practice. I think with AI, and this is something my boss, the chief design officer, Carl Riviera at Shopify, said recently, I think that we're now 7 out of 10 at everything. I'm a 7 out of 10 lawyer, I'm a 7 out of 10 copywriter, I'm a 7 out of 10 coder. And our jobs are to find out what we are, or where we are, a 10 out of 10. I think with something like Cursor, I've been able to connect to a Slack MCP, and connect to a Google Drive MCP, and connect to a Figma MCP. So my productivity is getting better, and I can see daily like what I need to be doing, what are the most important meetings to be attending, what are the most important projects to lean in on, and what are the ones I can automate. But then also, on the other hand, is being able to create visual prototypes by connecting Figma and Cursor that makes me feel like I don't need to go and rely on a development team anymore. I don't need to go and find funding to come up with something. I can do that myself, and at least get to a point where I know whether there's a market fit for something or not. So I think that that's definitely something that has really changed. I think for our merchants, what's really interesting is we've built a thing called Sidekick into our admin interface. And what we're finding is a lot of the merchants will use AI, not so much necessarily to do the basic productivity things that we know it can do, and help with orders, and help with advertising, and help with their own marketing, and help with their product descriptions and SEO and all text. But they're starting to use it as a companion, which is the reason we called it Sidekick, to help them with their business around helping them do their planning even. So a small merchant might be understanding that they're having dips in sales before Black Friday, and what are the things that they could be doing, and where are areas they can automate. So I think that the opportunity of using AI as somewhere to bounce ideas off is incredibly valuable, not just to be able to increase productivity.
As long as you don't use it to study for the bar exam like some celebrities did. I agree, Toby. Cursor is a fan favorite at Zapier for sure. Our engineering team effectively doesn't code anymore. They do everything off Cursor and our MCP product, which has actually turned out to be the most interesting from an enterprise perspective, and it makes perfect sense with the way you describe it. All right, we have a couple more questions here. Michael has one. What is your experience with creating a foundational structure for creative AI automation? What have been your worst experience? What's been your worst experience witnessing creative AI automation gone bad? I feel anyone can jump in here if you have an answer.
I'll just, one thing I'll say is I think that one of the interesting things, and I start to miss this, I miss the hallucinations. I think that there was a time when we were playing early on where I think that the prompt roulette, I kind of like that because you just never knew what you were going to get back. And looking back at sort of the early things that we produced were like, what the hell is that? Like, I've never seen anything like it. And as the tools have got better, sometimes I miss that time where we were in a space of like, we don't know. The prompts are getting good. We can stack prompts and we can prompt each other to create better prompts. And so that the output now feels like you have a bigger team of people working on that, which is fine. But I think where we've had things where they have gone wrong, it's also, the word wrong is interesting. Sometimes they produce things that we just didn't know, we didn't expect. And I miss that somewhat. And so I think that where we start to create, if the tools get good enough to create mid-level slop that's just fine, I think that we're missing an opportunity both to start to explore new areas that we didn't know existed, but also finding some creative that stands out. It's really easy to automate and find something that's fine, 7 out of 10. But like, how do we use these tools to create mind-blowing or heart-stopping creative? That's the thing that I think is interesting.
And if you don't mind me saying this, being married to especially a creative person in the music industry, I truly believe that there's also an element of needing to be around other people and to actually commiserate and not just off of asynchronicity. It can work, but it loses sometimes the magic or organic part that can come out of whether it's making a great song. If you look at almost all the great music that's come out, it's 2 writers. It's not just one or something like that. And a lot of some of the most creative things that have happened have never been on an individual basis. And sometimes I feel like prompts can lead me down a silo of confirmation bias, or my way of thinking is the right way of thinking, versus more inclusive. Like, I still like meetings. I like phone calls. I would meet people in person if I could. But it's interesting. I loved hearing your thoughts on that, because that first part of technology, when it's a little out there, just like chat roulette, back when I was a teenager and never should have been on there. Rainey, Mark, Julia, you want to add anything? We have, I think, time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
I would do a short one. So I think while we go with using AI is good enough to create good enough work, but never the best. And as a creative, I think that's where we come in with our taste, and which makes it even harder to be a creative right now. Like, if you really want to push the envelope and be better, and there's already a bar where AI is set to just good enough to show it to the public or to pitch. But when it comes down to true creativity, a lot of the inputs really has to come through our own thinking, our thought process, and what we want to push out. Because AI will never have the intent that like till now AI it's a robotic tool, right? And it doesn't have the intent of what a human being has.
Well said.
I agree. I'll just say that our founder, Melanie Perkins, just recently said we're in the imagination era. And I was responding to Julia saying like it's enabling her to dream bigger. You know, maybe that's a 7 out of 10 or like, but like it can get her to dream things that never, you know. And then, you know, Toby talked about like not needing a dev team. I recently met with a copywriter. My wife's a copywriter. And the coolest thing was that like her imagination, she wrote this book, and she was able with AI, actually with Leonardo, to build not just a story, but she's like, I never went to art school. I never was a designer, but she built this amazing book that her company published. But the idea that like anything you can imagine can come to life now. It's just really, it's an exciting time to be, in all of this. So.
I agree. Anyone who has the creative spark or inspiration, which in the Latin origin etymology is to breathe life into, you can finally start to dabble in a little bit more. All right, I will wrap it up with one more question, which I think is on top of everyone's mind. And again, everyone, thank you so much for the great engagement and questions. These have been perfect. This has been such a wonderful event. What, again, for any of the speakers, what got you what are you excited for 2026? And are you going to use AI in any new ways? And could you share some of your plans, since you all are the experts?
I'll just do a very quick short one. Is that following on from Mark and his wife's book, I think that one of the things that I've started to do is starting creating personal software again. Like I'm old enough to remember like Web 1.0, where I could create a website to do something for me because I wanted it and had an idea. We're starting to, like, I can rebuild Discogs, or I can rebuild Apple Music using Music Kit. And I would never have been able to do that even last year. But using the tools that are available to me, I can actually create things that I want without having to pay for them. So suddenly everyone is a software developer.
Absolutely. Rainey, Mark, I know Julia, you're having some camera problems, but feel free to chime in and then we'll wrap things up.
I love what you said, Toby. Actually, it also reminds me of a great use case, and sorry about my camera again. I hope you can hear me. Is the use case that my colleague Kelly had. So, you know, we just refreshed Zapier and we have all of those grids. And it also took a lot of time to you know, draw them. And so she, you know, just like put together plugin for Figma using Claude, and she basically just like, you know, started prompting it, and it created code for her, and it created like a plugin to generate those grids, and she could like edit those and then export vector out of it. So yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait also to become a better engineer, and I've never been one, and I never thought I will be. So that's really, really exciting for me. And the other one that I selfishly feel it's a good side effect from AI is that I think now many people outside of creative fields, they think that AI can do everything. Like I can just like prompt and I will have something, but you can see right now that there is chaos out of it. And I think that creative people will be super, super important to stand out. And so Rainey, what you said about like AI just can create like certain level of things, and I think that smart people, good creatives, creative creatives will be super important. And I can't wait really to see all of those ideas, because we are kind of like challenged with AI, and I just like can't wait to see how people leverage it.
Same. Do I have time to add one thing? So just responding to a question Sarahi had, and it's something that I'm super excited about. Canva has built a lot of intelligence around brand. We have tens of millions of templates. We have over 50 million brand kits within Canva. And over the next months, we're doing a lot of development that's going to really help kind of like, I think what Sarahi said was, how do you preserve a team's distinct voice and point of view? And so we just have a lot of runway ahead of us on this and building in that space. I'm super excited about it.
Perfect. There's so much ahead, and I think what will be, to me, most exciting from the human perspective is seeing how people learn to learn it on their own, to adapt to it when their companies aren't the AI forward here. Like I always mention Shopify. Sorry, Toby. And the directive, and we have a very similar one at Zapier, but how people will find their life maybe being a little easier, or some ways of access to information. We have a democratization maybe again, and less siloed and less confirmation bias, but depending on our forums and where we're at, and people can actually seek information and be curious again. And I think that is a beautiful thing and very necessary in today's world. So with that, thank you so much. Oh, wow. Apparently Mark, you've convinced someone to use Canva background remover. But special thank you to Toby, Rainey, Mark, and Julia. This took a long time to put this event together. We appreciate everyone taking time out of their day. It's been a long month, we know, and it's only partway through. So thank you, everyone. And the recording will be sent out. And again, special thank you to our thought leaders today.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, team.